This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
Just ahead on Carolina Impact.
They're all saying how well I do in South Carolina, like beyond any place.
It's all candidates, coverage, and cash down in South Carolina, while North Carolina plays catch-up in this year's early presidential primaries. Plus, a government task force issued new guidelines saying mammograms do the most good later in life, but not everyone agrees. And our One Tank Trip series takes you to a museum where you can experience the world at your fingertips. Don't go anywhere. Carolina Impact starts right now.
PBS Charlotte presents Carolina Impact, covering the issues, people, and places that impact you. This is Carolina Impact. Funding for Carolina Impact is provided by the members of PBS Charlotte.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Amy Burkett. Imagine your next door neighbor throwing a big party, but you're not invited. Everybody's there, all so close, all having fun. All you can do is watch from a distance. Well, that's kind of what it's like here in the Charlotte area. Every presidential election year, with candidates flocking to South Carolina's first in the South primaries, while North Carolina voters are mostly ignored. Carolina Impact's Jeff Saunier joins us from York County with more.
Well, Amy, if you live in North Carolina, you know that things are a little bit different here in South Carolina. Gas is cheaper, and that's good. Fireworks for sale, no problem. And once every 4 years, for a few frenzied months, this stretch of I-77, just south of the state line, well, it's transformed, becoming South Carolina's own road to the White House.
You know, South Carolina's a special place. They're all saying how well I do in South Carolina, like beyond any place.
Yep, if you're stumping for Trump or smitten with Clinton.
From Bennettsville, South Carolina.
Or maybe pushing for Bush.
Which side of the line are you? You're a North Carolinian or a South Carolinian?
When you're on the South Carolina side, well, you know, that's where the candidates come trying to get...
Tonight, Republican Senator Marco Rubio made several stops in Greenville talking about why he should be the next president.
Thank you, Charleston, for this turnout.
But I want to tell you, there is a spirit of revival that is sweeping South Carolina, that is sweeping the country. Americans are waking up.
The downside is we are inundated with politicians, and you cannot turn on the TV or radio. But you know what? That's a small price to pay. We really feel fortunate to be the first in the South.
Dr. Scott Huffman is a political science professor here at Winthrop University, where the flood of candidates and campaign events prior to the South Carolina primary includes this huge rally for Republican Donald Trump at Winthrop Coliseum.
In their cars. Should we wait for them to come in? No.
And another one related to South Carolina, the country.
There was also this First in the South candidate forum for Democrats, airing nationwide from Winthrop on MSNBC.
Hillary! Hillary!
Anybody want a Bernie sign?
Outside, long lines of supporters wait anxiously to get in with free tickets when the candidates come to town.
We are just checking the ticket to make sure you have it.
And they surround the stages when the cable networks move their nightly news and talk shows to South Carolina from New York and Washington. Plus, for local businesses, all that presidential primary politicking eventually adds up to a payday, no matter what the party.
All these candidates coming in and spending money on everything from rental cars to hotel nights to advertising in the media. So it is a great thing for the economy. I also think it's great for our citizens because, unlike a lot of places, we get to see candidates firsthand.
I love coming to South Carolina because there are a lot of people here with common sense. And
Meanwhile, across the state line in North Carolina,
Lonely, I'm Mr. Lonely.
Yep, while their favorite candidates head south, North Carolina voters have to get their cruise from the news, their Jeb from the web, their Rubio from YouTubia.
You've got to be there. You got to show up while people are still excited. And
in years past, the North Carolina primary has really just been an afterthought.
We're talking online with State Representative David Lewis in Raleigh, chairman of the North Carolina House Elections Committee, about moving up this year's North Carolina primary by 2 months, from May to mid-March, but still weeks behind South Carolina and dozens of other states.
We think South Carolina has done a good job of building excitement and of maintaining their first in the South primary, and we want to get as close to them as we can.
Nobody in the process has a better record in South Carolina.
And while organizers for Trump and the other campaigns stress South Carolina's importance deciding who runs in November, North Carolina may actually have a bigger role deciding who wins in November.
All South Carolina is a spectator when it comes to the general election. As soon as the nominees are decided, South Carolina ceases to matter and North Carolina becomes the entire focus of their attention. North Carolina can swing and can make a huge difference.
We're gonna win this one! Take the country by storm! We're gonna be elected!
Bottom line, while South Carolina is still a battleground state for presidential politics, North Carolina still battling to stay relevant. Amy?
Thanks, Jeff. Lawmakers in Raleigh tell us that after this election year, they'll look at moving North Carolina's presidential primary even earlier for the 2020 election. Still, it looks like South Carolina will stay first in the South, since party rules generally allow only Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada to hold early bird primaries before March 1st. Well, let's shift from politics to health. The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force has released new guidelines recommending women wait until they're 50 to get their first mammogram if they have an average risk for breast cancer. Now, that's caused quite a stir. Carolina Impact's Danielle Kosir introduces us to one woman who believes she would have died if she followed that recommendation.
Amy Keffer sits at the kitchen table scrolling through her Facebook feed. This isn't how she imagined life as a stay-at-home mom.
I'd like to be volunteering in the school, but for immunocompromised people, it's not a really great idea.
Last summer, doctors diagnosed Amy with triple-negative breast cancer.
It's extremely aggressive, it has a high recurrence rate, and the sucker grows fast.
She started chemotherapy weeks later. Now, as the chemo works to destroy the cancer cells, Amy focuses on staying strong for her 2 daughters, refusing to let the diagnosis destroy her.
Mommy's not going to quite be mommy for a while, but we're doing all this so that I can be.
With no family history of the disease, Amy says she was shocked when her very first mammogram revealed a tumor in her breast. She was only 40 years old.
Early detection is what saves lives, and it saved mine. I have every intention of being here in 5 years, 10 years, and raising my kids.
A number of health groups, including the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, urge women to begin yearly screening at age 40. But just last month, the government task force released new guidelines, stating women with an average risk for breast cancer should start getting screened later in life and less often.
Well, for some women, the changing and sometimes conflicting guidelines can be a bit confusing. For years, the American Cancer Society said women should start getting yearly mammograms at age 40. Well, just a few months ago, they bumped that number up to age 45. Now, the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force says women should get their first mammogram at age 50 and then every other year after that.
This is an asymptomatic woman.
Dr. Terry Wallace disagrees with the new recommendations.
20% of the breast cancers that we have found over the last many years have occurred in women below the age of 50. And if we stop screening those women, then 1 out of 5 of the breast cancers that we have found mammographically will go undetected until they become clinically apparent.
If you can have a screening mammogram starting at 40, and we find something on that mammogram, it is so much more treatable than if you wait till you're 45 and it's been there for many years growing.
Patty Mohan offers a unique perspective on the guidelines, voicing her opinion as both a mammographer and a breast cancer survivor. Diagnosed in 2008, just weeks after her 42nd birthday, Patty underwent a bilateral mastectomy, then returned to school so she could help women facing a similar diagnosis.
You hear about cancer and it's just this wall of fear for so many people, and it's just nice to be able to say there's hope.
The task force says out of every 1,000 women screened, 1 additional death could be prevented by women getting screened at age 40 instead of 50. But there's a trade-off. The group also says more than 500 women would face false alarms, more than 50 women would have unneeded biopsies, and 2 women would be overdiagnosed, treated for cancer that would have never been life-threatening.
I've looked carefully at their complaints or their accusations or those factors that they consider to be negative as it relates to screening. And I simply can't put any justification in any of those as being significant enough to allow us to sacrifice the lives of young women.
Doctors diagnose more than 200,000 women with breast cancer each year. Nearly 40,000 die from it. As a woman's age increases, so does her chance of developing the disease. According to the American Cancer Society, a 50-year-old woman has about a 2.5% chance of developing breast cancer in the next 10 years. That number falls to less than 1.5% for a woman who is 40. The statistics don't provide much comfort for women like Amy, who says if she followed some of the new guidelines,
I'd be dead. The recommendations to start at 45 for women who have no history of it, et cetera, and so forth, would have killed me.
She says she worries women who wait to get screened may not have the same chance she has, the chance to fight. For now, Amy draws strength from her family, friends, and virtual support system as she prepares for her next battle, surgery to remove both breasts later this year.
They have shown such incredible compassion and love for me and my family, and it is so humbling, and it is, I know that it's going to be what gets me through this. I know I'm going to be able to look back and say these people played a role in my survival.
Amy says focusing on a lifetime with her family helps her get through the harsh side effects of chemotherapy, from the hair loss to the never-ending fatigue. She hopes sharing her story will help other women as they navigate their way through the different screening guidelines. For Carolina Impact, I'm Danielle Kosir reporting.
Thanks so much, Danielle. Research shows women are most frequently diagnosed with breast cancer between the ages of 55 to 64. To learn more about the new Mammogram Guidelines, Katie Robbins joins me now. She's the Director of Marketing and Practice Relations with Charlotte Radiology. Katie, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
It's always
great
to see you again. Talk to us a little bit about this because my head is swirling. I'm old enough to have been around when the recommendation was you start having mammograms at 40 years old, and we did it.
Certainly.
And so then it moved to recommendations that you shouldn't do it till you're 50, and now we're at 45. How confusing, and what kind of message is this really sending to women?
Oh, it's so confusing for women. Frequency of how often to go and when to start has just, it's just gotten mind-blowing. The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force is an organization that came out in 2009 and changed their recommendations, and luckily the government stepped in and ensured that insurance would continue to cover mammograms. They had to re-review those this last year, and so those recommendations have remained 50 in every other year. And then the American Cancer Society came out and tried to change the recommendations as well, and made it even more confusing for women, I think. The bottom line is a lot of the folks that have been looking at these recommendations from their panels are not experts in breast health. The true experts in breast health will be your mammographers. They will be radiologists who subspecialize in breast imaging. They see this day in and day out. And those physicians, our physicians at Charlotte Radiology, and those physicians across our country are still recommending women go every year starting at age 40.
But there is a concern that perhaps insurance won't pay for it in the future if we go against what the federal government recommends.
Sure. So the task force from the government does affect insurance. Now, that's not their goal, but anything that they give less than a B2 on their recommendations means that the insurance companies don't technically have to pay for it. Luckily, the government has stepped in December and passed the PALS Act. That act actually protects access to life-saving screenings, mammography. So for the next 2 years, insurance will cover mammograms every year starting at 40 for women. After that, it's anybody's guess as to what's going to happen. And our hope is that women and government officials and doctors, hopefully as well, will step up and fight back to ensure that coverage continues.
So for so many years, this was just a job for you.
Yes.
You worked at Charlotte Radiology.
That's right.
But now this is so personal with you fighting your own battle with breast cancer.
Yeah. For over 20 years, I have promoted mammography. It's been something that's been a part of my career, and for the last 10 years, very, very much so at Charlotte Radiology. In December, I was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer. I'm 42 years old. I have no family history. I am the poster child for why these recommendations are wrong. Living proof that, you know, if you go every year and start at 40, you have a chance of catching it early and saving your life. And that's the difference for me right now in having a mastectomy and having a lumpectomy. I am going to be able to be out of work a week versus being out of work months potentially. It's a game changer for me, and I can't say it loud enough. You know, mammography can save lives. I was lucky to have 3D mammography, and that's something that the task force has not put enough time into investigating. Locally, our women have seen a 35% decrease in callback rates in women with dense breast tissue by using 3D mammography. And our subspecialized doctors have a trained eye. Both of those were in my favor when my mammogram came around this year. That's what, you know, actually caught my tumor. I have dense breasts. It could have not been found. I'm very lucky to have had those things. And so women here in Charlotte are very lucky to have access to not only mammography, but the best technology and the best doctors.
With breast cancer, like almost every cancer, the sooner you catch it, the better the prognosis is for the future, because there's a myriad of treatment options and they can target something specifically for you to have great success.
Absolutely. We've watched the mortality rate plummet since annual mammography starting at 40 has been around, and that's been since the late 80s, I guess. It's been about a 35% decrease in mortality rate. You know, you couple that with the ability of new treatments or the access to new treatments so that women have a chance of not having to have these radical mastectomies and just better options to keep them healthy and be able to survive cancer, but also live a life through cancer. We're very lucky, and taking mammography away from younger women and even older women every year puts us at such risk of not being able to live our lives the way we deserve to.
Katie Robbins from Charlotte Radiology, we are grateful for you sharing your information. We're sorry that this message became personal for you, but we are cheering you on and just so grateful that you caught it. And we look forward to brighter days and a great future and many lives saved because you're willing to share your story.
Thank you, Amy. I feel blessed and lucky to be here.
One of my favorite Zig Ziglar quotes is, how do you get what you want in life? Help enough other people get what they want. Our next story is actually talking about helping people get what they need. Good Friend Charlotte helps the working poor across Mecklenburg County. In 2015, the nonprofit made a difference for more than 3,000 people. Carolina Impact's Jason Terzis shows us how a dream shared by a few people has grown into a huge, impactful annual event.
You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. Strength doesn't come from what you can do, it comes from overcoming the things you once thought you couldn't. The minute you think of giving up, think of the reason why you held on so long. By the way, miracles can happen. Inspirational quotes fill Meg Jones's home. They serve as motivation, helping her navigate through all the twists and turns of her life.
Is either Tiffany or Russell or the charge nurse around?
Originally from Georgia, Meg graduated 5th in her high school class. She accepted a scholarship to Davidson College, where she majored in comparative religion and studied abroad. But following the death of her father from a heart attack during her sophomore year, and the death of her mother, also from a heart attack 2 years later, Meg's life forever changed. She went through battles with depression, alcoholism, debt, and homelessness. She endured 5 surgeries in a span of just 2 years, including the removal of an 11-pound fibroid. She's even been declared dead.
I have led what some might view as a rather traumatic, discombobulated, weird, unfortunate life.
But through faith and friends, Meg persevered and rebuilt her life. She's now a nursing student in the geriatric unit at the Carolina's College of Health Sciences. But while working in the hospital, Meg noticed her eyesight was becoming blurry and quickly getting worse. That's where Good Friends of Charlotte stepped in, helping Meg regain her focus.
Good Friends is a group of women that comes together for a holiday luncheon every year, and we're really trying to give hope to the Queen City. We are raising money for the disadvantaged, and we give it out one small gift at a time.
Meg's vision hadn't been checked in 15 years. She desperately needed an eye exam and glasses, but couldn't afford the cost. That's when she was put in contact with Good Friends. Her request was immediately approved.
Good Friends did not ask me to do anything in return. They simply very graciously and kindly gave the check to the social worker who mailed it to me, and that was it.
And so in a case like Meg Jones, she was in nursing school, and she's had some trip-ups in her life, but she really is persevering, and she's trying to succeed. And she could not read the prescription bottles doing her work at the hospital. And so we paid for an eye exam and glasses, and I don't even think it wasn't even $100. But it made the world a difference. She said the world looked brighter when she looked up with the glasses.
Formed in 1987 by Catherine Browning, Alice Folger, Patty Norman, and Sally Salsey, Good Friends was patterned after the popular Goodfellows men's group of Charlotte. The women held their first luncheon with the goal of raising $16,000.
There were about 400 women there, and we raised $35,000. Absolutely thrilled with what we had done.
And the numbers have only continued to grow. This past December's luncheon attracted more than 1,400 women and raised more than $312,000.
And I am absolutely ecstatic over where almost 30 years later, this is where we are, having raised in excess of $300,000. Who would have thought?
Since its inception, Good Friends has now raised more than $3 million. Their plan is simple. Yearly dues of $75 offsets the cost of the annual luncheon and 2 part-time employees. Money raised at the luncheon then goes directly to the community.
It could be a refurbished computer. It could be a used washer and dryer. It could be a pair of glasses. It could be a pair of shoes so a student can walk across the graduation stage. Everything we do has a meaning so that we give people hope and a forward path so that they can feel better about their tract in life.
As one of this year's Good Friends recipients, Meg was recognized for her perseverance and determination. While on stage, she said many small acts of kindness over the years have saved her life. She now strives to do the same, even joining Good Friends to help return the favor.
I borrowed money from my best friend, and I'm now a member of Good Friends.
Set to graduate in May, Meg looks forward to joining the nursing world full-time, helping others just as others have helped her. For Carolina Impact, I'm Jason Terzis reporting.
Thanks so much, Jason. This was my first year at the Good Friends Luncheon, and I just loved seeing so many women working together, sharing their resources to help others. It felt so good just to do my part. Well, next, we're heading to the only Smithsonian-style education center in South Carolina, and it's only 45 minutes south of uptown Charlotte. In tonight's One Tank Trip, producer Russ Hunsinger takes us to the Museum of York County, where you can go on an African safari, explore the galaxy, and touch over 1,500 natural history exhibits.
Polar bears are the biggest bears in the world. That's a jaguar because he's so much bigger. That's a leopard.
This particular museum focuses primarily on the natural history of the Carolina Piedmont and some of its global connections. You're going to be able to come here and see things that are unlike anything else you're going to find in the Carolinas. People are going to gain a better understanding of not only the place they live, which we call the Piedmont, exactly what that means, and that there's a great diversity of wildlife, plants and animals that inhabit the Carolina Piedmont. And most people are surprised what we have.
You can see the spots underneath his fur there.
The African animals, we have everything from a variety of antelope to a fully mounted elephant. But we do right now have a fully reconstructed giant ground sloth. Most people wouldn't expect that such an animal ever existed, much less right here in South Carolina.
If you look at his back teeth really close, are they flat or are they pointy? Pointy.
We have over 2,000 specimens that children can actually not only see, but actually hold in their hands. And that's one of the hallmarks of the learning here at the museum, especially in our Naturalist Center.
This is an eagle egg.
When they're able to actually touch and feel and to see, it is
they're taking in more than just reading in a book, and they're interested. They're more hands-on.
Snap, crackle, pop, Rice Krispies.
We are standing in the Vernon Grant Gallery, and Vernon Grant created Snap, Crackle, and Pop for the Kellogg's Company. He created a large body of work encompassing wonderful nursery rhymes, a number of magazine covers. He worked for companies like Gillette and Hershey's, and he has a very distinctive style. We do have a space at the Museum of York County called Tot Town, and that is for our younger visitors. We recommend it for ages 6 and under, and it is a play-based experience. So what we've done is we've used the artwork of Vernon Grant to create this wonderful immersive play experience. So what we really try to do is, at times, if we have an art exhibition, we try to tie nature into it. The planetarium is a great space. When you're sitting in the seat, all the images are surrounding you, so it is an immersive experience. There is a nature trail. We have a 3/4 of a mile loop that's right behind the museum. It's easily accessible.
And you guys feel so much softer, the polar bear is, than the brown bear?
Lions and some birds, bears.
So here's the rabbit. That's a small mouse.
Children are learning sponges. They absorb virtually everything they come into contact with, what they see, what they hear, and importantly, too, what they can touch.
Thanks so much, Russ. Looks pretty exciting to me. For more details about the Museum of York County, we've got a link posted on our Carolina Impact page at pbscharlotte.org. Before we go, I want to remind you about 2 things. First, our 3rd annual PBS Charlotte Community Give Back Contest is underway. Head to our website for all the details on how an area nonprofit will win $10,000 in free exposure right here on your public television station, PBS Charlotte. The deadline for submissions is Friday, February 12th. We'll spotlight the 3 finalists here on Carolina Impact in the spring, and you'll pick the winner by voting online. I also want to remind you about our 3rd annual STEM Awards on May 5th. We'll host a ceremony at Central Piedmont Community College to recognize the excellent work of 6th through 12th graders across our 13-county region. Teens and teachers, you can't win if you don't enter. We're specifically looking for your projects in science, technology, engineering, and math. Teachers will be recognized for most innovative, best community connection, and best STEM integration. The deadline to enter is March 14th. You'll find all the details on our homepage at pbscharlotte.org. That does it for all of us this week. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you back here again next time on Carolina Impact. Good night, my friends.
Funding for Carolina Impact is provided by the members of PBS Charlotte. A production of PBS Charlotte.